I'm going to read is about a costume fitting for a new dance by Martha. And it centers on having breasts where most dancers don't have breasts. And there was a little problem because I had them. The poem is titled Freedom Red. She knew me, the costume mistress, when I stood for a fitting for Martha Graham's new work, Dancing Ground, we nicknamed Schlepping Ground, set to a sappy Ned Rorem score. She knew me when she took my measurements and her scowl burned. She knew me when I tried to hide the shame of my protruding body parts. Why was I a few of a kind, C-cup dancer? I yearned for a flat chest. She knew me as a story from Martha when I imagined them gossiping over extra work. With pursed eyelids, the 2-week season loomed. She'd have to sew darts so the dress would shape my upper body. Unlike older garments created on wool jersey that molded to most bodies, these new costumes crafted on synthetic material had little give. She didn't know me when my undeveloped body slept till 15, when these things blossomed. Boys began to trail after me as if my boobs were Gretel's dropped breadcrumbs. She knew me at the last fitting, her king-size unfiltered cigarette dangling from her lips. When I looked in the mirror, dressed in such valentine red finery, the shame scab slipped. I was a Martha Graham dancer. I was living my dream. This costume, made especially for me, opened a dancing ground, vain, and I came alive.
A Body by Samantha Choten-Jenner. Nitpicking every part of this human body, pulling its pieces apart, analyzing every detail. It's a body. I'm a body. I keep myself healthy and well. I get through this horrific life, day after day. I fight for my right to exist, without unsolicited criticism. Why do I need to be stitched and sewed to be loved by these people, who made these stupid rules? I will never be looked at as a person, only a body that can be molded and shaped to exist for them, not for me.
My name is Tess Cooley, and my poem is called Bodily Choice. Fat isn't biological. It's a pest, it's a disease, it's a problem. It must be removed. Contain the weight, wear something tight, wear something thin, wear something flattering, wear it to shape it. Desire the figure, must eat less, must eat carbs, must eat pills, must lose the extra pounds. Wishing for love, he wants change, he wants perfection, he wants beauty, he loves who fits the image. A list of ideals that had no choice, now one empowered with the power of personal choice.
Hi, I'm Annie, and this is my poem, The Last Dance. Plié, tendu, rond de jambe. My stomach sucks in as I recite the steps to a dance that I can never quite be a part of, for although I am flexible and flawless in technique, my body is no longer that of a child's. Coupé, passé, développé. My teacher casually tells me I look like a cow as my stomach grumbles with a hollow feeling inside from carving my insides into the perfect shape, because when I first bled through my pretty pink tights, I finally understood my body is no longer that of a child's. Relevé, arabesque, penché. My class is being fitted for our recital costumes, but my breasts are too big to fit the mold that I agreed to conform to in the contract I signed when my mother put me in ballet class at age 3, for she couldn't have possibly known that at age 13, my body is no longer that of a child's. Glissade, assemblée, changement, as though it can sense my ultimate demise in a sport where the artist must be as thin as her brush, my back fractures as I take my final leap, hear the final cheers, that allow me to say, enough is enough, for I know my body is no longer that of a child's. And in this world, that makes it useless.
The next poem I want to read is called The Wall, 1969. And the wall is not the wall in Washington, D.C. It's the wall in a little town in central California called Ojai, a town that I ultimately moved to after I came back from Vietnam and started a family. I kissed the Travis Air Base tarmac while the thud of fruit surrounded me, and the chanting of demonstrators at the fence line became the first strokes of the red letter that decorated my chest for years to come. After 14 months and a 14-hour flight, division was everywhere, even in the streets of small-town Ojai. The peaceniks camped on the Libby Park wall took their stand against the war, while across the road, the city fathers and cowboys frequented the Hub, the only bar in town. The badgering and cursing lobbed back and forth across Ojai Avenue like a tennis ball, but with ill intent. And the networks, in technical, spared no detail, the red and green of blood in the jungle, the clubbed heads of demonstrators, the provocateurs with their Molotovs and broken glass. From one televised segment to the next, the layers of violence were peeled away nightly, like an onion, but no tears, just seeds of guilt. Marines to be medevaced, anti-war soldiers standing against nightsticks, and the anger of the riot squad. We marched in uniform against the war, against our fathers who called us traitors, we who knew the senselessness taking place, yet still felt the shame in turning our backs on our government. In a dream, Sergeant Purcelli stands on crutches, singed and still smoking from the rocket that took his legs and his sight, and urges me to go back with him. Corporal, get your gear. This time we'll get it right. 4th of July, years later, I watched the parade coming through our town with my 5-year-old son, standing where the Libby Park wall used to be, blown up by the Patriots during the war. When the veterans marched by, a ragtag mix of lost souls to my eye, a pint sticking out of the leader's jacket pocket. My son wants to know why I'm not marching. Across the parade, the cowboys and bikers exit the Hub, cheer loudly, almost as if mocking the vets as they pass by. How do I explain to my boy I'm not ready to celebrate? Still can't seem to wash the blood splatter off my hands.
My name is Colette Rogers, and my poem is titled The Wounding. Innocence stripped away by the fatal cleansing of violence. Words like daggers ingested beyond my ears, staining the walls of my skull. Mourn the pureness of sacred skin, torched when placed upon poisonous playgrounds. Every solemn whisper heard, echoing throughout my pulsing consciousness, through the vessel of my being. Tender trembles cradle a wilting rose, its stems cut flush by the arm of its superior, blankets washed by the stream of my tears, drowning the child below me. If youth is the light, trauma is the fly, and it feeds off soft, naive souls.
We, the people of Ukraine, I don't hear silence anymore, just echoes of screams, pleading and praying. I don't see blue skies, just smoke and ash. I don't feel anything but pain, a grain of pain for each thought that passes by. In the day, I must blend in and numb it. I must hide the pain I fall back on every night. I cannot be consumed, I think, for I need to look at the future ahead. Even though school becomes harder with each day, I have to turn in assignments I can't do. I have no idea how else to move forward. I'm blessed to be here, but I hate it. Feeling so alone in this pain, nobody acknowledges it. The days pass by fast, and the nights are slow. I have to have fun to escape it. It could be me, a fearful death, a lifeless corpse. I could be running, getting raped, recorded, burned, and gutted. I could be delivering babies in shelters and healing the wounded. I could be watching my parents getting shot. I could be at a hospital in pain, missing limbs. I could be alone, without family, an orphan. I'm praying for the brothers, uncles, fathers, and cousins fighting. I am praying for the survivors and orphans. I'm praying for the hostages and refugees. I'm praying for my people and my culture.
To tell a loving lie or a brutal truth? I had that dilemma 25 years ago. I lied to my father at his deathbed, and my guilty feelings have followed me for many years.
My name is Amy Ochoa, and my essay is Forgiveness. The theme that was represented in Lydia's poem that I connected to most is forgiveness. The main obstacle that was later on tackled was that Lydia lied to her father on his deathbed and had guilty feelings after. Lydia was never able to forgive herself until she realized that her father was a forgiving man and he would forgive her. She had to look at her condition from a different perspective because of what she did. She claimed she did out of love. She wanted her father to die with a loving lie rather than a brutal truth that would hurt him. She wanted her father to die in peace. My obstacles are similar but different in certain aspects. I had to leave my mom when I was 4 years old. She was never physically there for me. I had to lean on another woman to call mom, and I never forgave myself, and I never forgave my biological mother until a few years ago. She was the reason why my dad and her got divorced. I will never forgive the way she hurt my dad, but I do forgive that she wasn't the mom she was supposed to be. I believe that all children deserve to be wanted, but not all adults are meant to be parents. My mother had my sister and I young and didn't have a career. She wanted to live her young life like how she was supposed to. She was supposed to be in her 20s and teens and go out clubbing and drinking to meet new people. She had adult problems as a kid, and she was never able to have that teenage life. She had responsibilities that needed her to be physically and mentally there. Her responsibilities were her children. Fast forward a few years after, my father won majority custody of my sister and I. She apologized for not being there for my sister and I. At this point in time, she had my little sister and was pregnant with my other little sister. She said that God gave her another chance of being a mom because she got a new pair of daughters that she will be there for. I do forgive my mom, but I will never forget.
So it was Halloween, and I drove from the airport to my father's house in New Orleans East. It would be the first time I'd seen him, the World War II vet, since he came out in one piece from the hurricane. All along the way home, I couldn't stop staring at how cars and boats had been tossed around like the aftermath of a child bored with his toys. Inside the house that reeked of mold, I found my father, wearing his 80 years, like nobody's business, bending over, intently poking at the gray flotsam like a beachcomber looking for nuggets hidden in the muck. Not much to say, not much to do, until the enormity of it all drove my father out to the driveway where the flash flood from the failed levee had drowned his car, foiling his getaway. In the now, I watched him, squatting on a plastic crate, like a man who had lost a war all by himself.
I'm Gannon Reed, and this is my poem. There was a disastrous flood one hot day, creating an endless river of grief. Many people were trapped and left to decay, but for some their suffering was brief. A popular face who has connections receives all the help he needs to survive. With friends in high places and privileged reflections, he doesn't need to work real hard to thrive. Another man born into a system where suffering is normalized, caught in the same flood but left to rot because he is not worthy of saving. in need of the same amount of help, but too much melanin so he is demoralized. So he holds on to hope for dear life, innocently waiting. Why treat one's suffering as less important than others, when we all share a part of everyone in our soul? Evil has engulfed so many hearts in divided colors, but nobody's suffering should be neglected, for it affects humanity as a whole. Waking up is realizing that the world is corrupt with twisted mind, and striving to do your part to stop the divide.
Radiance. In the non-insulated garage of my mind, a lone mechanic cranks a vise, pressuring the cranium until stars spill from my ears. He bangs, clangs, and pings with a magic sheet metal hammer. Then he drills little holes. Bright shards fall onto my bed, illuminating the darkened room before floating freeform into the galaxy. It is a ride to be seen, a Studebaker Golden Hawk dodging the flotsam and jetsam of space. When that manic car superimposes the sun, it looks luminous for a moment, flames out, and returns to my globe as a scorched hunk of steel. Earth no longer needs her exquisite beauty. When daylight rises, I devote myself to finding pieces of my once magnificent automobile and the gray matter that built it. Chasing that daring cipher of thought, I will scratch letters on paper or tap, tap, tap the keyboard with continued shades and color, flashing radiance in the quiet morning air.
Hi, my name is Luca, and this is my poem, Life Inside a Car. My mind remains a permanent autumn wind in this cool fall night. The stars comes on the floor. The Mercedes E500 has been called the perfect sedan. German engineered, assembled by Porsche with a Japanese engine. Competitors and allies stand together to express perfection. In a modern lens, it's none more than a metal block. Crumbs on the floor. An unstoppable comet speeding towards the limits of space-time. A juggernaut of impossibilities. Only stopping for gas and air. Only thing faster is a lie. Only thing hotter is a star. Only thing, crumbs on the floor. The carpet turns to cosmos, deep leather chairs, resting upon a vacuum. Broken speakers produce music of galaxies, vibrations of dying stars, cries of infant planets. Streetlights blur into warp speed. Stars on the roof, crumbs on the floor.
This first poem I want to read is called Survivor. It's about him, and it's really about all of the survivors. He knows the depths of smokestacks, from their bleak rims down their spattered walls, from their ash cones to the bone-bottom ground. Once he could see underskin, inside the body, where deprivation thins the blood of all desire except hunger. For years he wanted to forget everything. He knows it is possible to live only at the surface. It is possible to work, to marry, and have daughters. But his daughters look like people he once knew, and he dreams them. He dreams them opening doors, sending letters. When he wakes, he knows he has been dreaming. This year, he will show his daughters where he was born. He will show them the chimney, the iron gate, the deep oven where his mother baked bread.
My great-grandmother is a Holocaust survivor, and she speaks Hebrew. When I communicate with her, it's hard for her to speak. So, ani lo mavina means I don't understand. And my great-grandmother's eyes shine ani lo mavina. She does not understand whenever we speak. And our tongue is of the same mother, yet she smiles and she nods, and she speaks through her eyes, but she says, ani lo mavina, I don't understand. And then, near the end of the poem, I imagine when her eyes are shut she's taken to a world which she doesn't understand. And then it's, and when ipotachet et ha'anayim, which means, and when she opens her eyes. And this is my poem, Ani lo mavina. My great-grandmother's eyes shine, Ani lo mavina, whenever I speak. Our language is no barrier, and our tongue is of the same mother. Adayini mechayechet, and nods and speaks through her eyes, but she says, Ani lo mavina. I imagine when her eyes are shut, she is sucked back to a time where she was not allowed to see. A place where she is alone, holding her own on a battlefield that eats people like her alive. And when ipotachet et ha'anayim, she is greeted with a world she simply lo mavina. Thank you.